Hello guys, can you hear me? Okay, cool. So where is Daria? If you don't mind, you can turn on your cameras and show yourself. So this is me. Uh, as you know, my name is Stan and I'm JavaScript teacher at Dev. Nice to meet you guys. How are you doing? You can unmute yourself. That's totally fine with me. I mean, I guess we will be waiting for more people to come. This is my assumption. And as soon as they come, we can start. And today's lesson, it won't take so much time. This lesson will be more about answering your questions, answering about maybe some JavaScript coding, well, at least my program in Tech Startup, what we gonna do there. I can even show you a small, maybe a presentation after today's class, what we are doing right now and what the current step is. And this is basically it. So today we're gonna talk more. I would like to learn some info about you guys, if you do not mind. And this is basically it. So we'll see. Do you have any questions so far? Yes? No?
I'm sorry, I did miss the first session, and I just started actually filling out the HTML file with details, but I'm not there yet, but I'll just try to catch up with what you guys doing.
Yeah. So the main idea, you can, our free courses, it's just like a small intro of what we are doing on my course in JavaScript Basics. And so here in this course, we decided to create a simple static, not a static, a simple, let's say, web page. And this web page is the calculator. It has small functionality, you know how the calculator is working, like you can make a sum, you can make a division, multiplication, and so on.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I started watching your video, so I'm aware. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay, I'm waiting for Daria. Hopefully she will come. So she was the one who insisted on my camera. So we'll wait for 2 more minutes, actually 1 more minute, and afterwards we can start. Once again, guys, if you have any questions before we start, feel free to ask your questions. I will gladly answer your questions. If not, we can start maybe right in a couple of minutes. I saw your actually homeworks, and good job, guys. Who completed the homework? As I see Konstantin, he completed his homework. Evgenia, Yulia, who else? Evgenia, Mark. Who is Mark? Sim. Maxim, are you here? No? Well, anyway. Me, operator FM. Okay, good job. What's your name? Maxim. Okay, good. Nice to meet you, Maxim. Good job, good job. So, yeah, I guess we can start. Let me share my screen again. And we will go through it. Screen. So are you able to see my screen? Wait a second, guys. I have to. Hello? Uh, can you hear me? Uh, Guys, okay. Okay, good. If you can hear me, that's totally fine. So I'm going to open the project folder again where we previously worked. And to do that, I can open Visual Studio Code. This is the very first step. Then I have to click on the open folder option. And then from here, I should go to my desktop because this is exactly where my full project folder is. I'm going to select the folder and here you go. So what happened on the previous class? Let's make a small rewind. So on the previous class, we had let me on the previous class, we went through the basic HTML concept. You know that doc type HTML, this tag defines the latest HTML. Then we have the main HTML tag, and that HTML contains two subsections, let's say so, and all HTML content should be inside this HTML tag. So, do you remember when I said you about the human body? So imagine that HTML is just like a human body, where head, where we have our skeleton, muscles, and skin. Skeleton, skin, and muscles. So HTML, it's our skeleton. This is actually the main structure, the skeleton of our website. We do have a head tag, and that head tag contains invisible content. It has such things like title. Where can we find title? So title can be found. Okay, let me open this file. So title, if you click on right click and then click on inspect, then you should be able to observe the elements of your HTML web page. So we have here title. As you can see, it's right here. And title can be found right here. This is actually the title of your website. This thing, or the title of the title helps search engines like Google, Yahoo, or any other search engines to find your specific website in web search. So what's about the next guy over here? Script. Script is this tag helps us to enable JavaScript or to connect calculator.js to calculator.html file. So pretty much it. So we're done with our invisible part. Now let's move to our visible part where we have the body and the body. So body contains all the visible content of the website. As you can see, we have H1 tag, and H1 tag stands for the biggest header on our web page. Then we have three different divs, div1, div2, div3. What's the difference between those? We have the content is itself, of course, is different, but if you noticed or if you remember, hopefully you do remember, each div has its own attribute, which is ID. ID is a unique attribute, and with that said, that means that there is no other HTML element with such an ID. Imagine this is just a unique key or social security number. So that thing helps you to navigate through your website. It helps you to determine or to define the specific HTML element, and you can contact to your developers and just say, hey, the HTML element with ID first number is not working as expected. Could you please check it out? So this is actually how in, let's say, in big companies, not the big companies, this is a very good practice. Or was from QA side, but if we have a look on it from the developer side, when you will be creating your HTML elements, you need like a clear image how you will call them, your elements, because for right now it's not critical to create an IDs, but in the future imagine that you will have not three HTML elements, but hundreds or even thousands, and you have to navigate through them, and that is why you need the ID. So with that said, let's go to the next field. So the next field is, okay, we do not have this guy right now, if I'm not mistaken. We're gonna add this later. So, and then we have heading, H5. And then it has its own ID, first number heading. Then it has the second number, second section, which can be found right here. This is, okay, let me just close. This is this div, and that second number, okay, let me refresh the page. Okay, so this is actually what you should have from your homework. So the second div contains just a heading right now, and it has some naming inside of it. So where do we keep all the headings? All the headings are contained in calculator.js file. We have window unload function, and that window unload function contains three variables. The first variable is first number, the second number, and the third one is a result. So after that, we have a browser method or document get element by ID. We are talking to our browser. We are saying, hey, get the element with the following ID, first number heading. So first number heading is right here. So we are talking to this heading right now, and we are assigning the value first number, which is located right here. So on the line 3, we created a variable and put some value inside of it. So in this case, it's first number. And now we are using this variable on our line number 4, document get element by ID, first number heading, and then we are assigning the value of this variable right here, and that means here. So the same thing was working for the second number and the result. So second number heading and the result heading. So this is actually where we stopped on our previous class, and feel free to ask any questions, or just you can unmute yourself and ask the questions before we continue.
Yeah, I have a question. Could you go back to JavaScript?
Yes,
I'm not sure if I maybe just didn't get to that part in the video.
Okay,
So
okay.
document is what? Is a library? And get
Not just
element
a
by ID is
library.
method?
This is just inbuilt method. So that thing helps you to, to talk to your HTML elements. So document get element by ID helps you, returns your reference to the first object with specified value of ID attribute. If you hover over it, Visual Studio Code says that this is a method, and you are talking to the ID. which is first element heading. So this is just the syntaxes. I believe in automation, you won't be using it a lot, like, you know, almost I personally not using it, but it's good to know. Sometimes, you know, you might come to the situation when you are developing something really very small in a very small scope. And for those kind of purposes, you have to do something like that, but not necessary. Cool. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So let's, do you guys have any other questions before we start? Okay, if not, let's continue. So I created the second part and I just simply added the second part to the previous readme.md file. You can see it on the, I will add it to the homework or the channel that we are using here maybe. Yeah, I will add it here and so that you will be able to finish the project. So guys, no worries and let's start. So are you able to see my screen? I mean, is it big enough or do you want me to make it bigger for you?
It's good size.
Okay, cool. So let's proceed. Open calculator.html file and paste the following code inside your div ID first number. Okay, I'm going to copy this guy over here, just like what my documentation say, and put it into my div first number. Okay, good. So I have to do following. So let me refresh the page and see what happened. So after adding, I'm able to see some field over here. I can put some numbers. Am I allowed to put any digits to some strings? No. So that field accepts only digits, which is actually what I need because this is a calculator. And let's have a look on its structure. Input, if you notice, it's called self-closing tag. Why it's self-closing? Because this tag doesn't have a closing tag actually. So if we compare it to the H1, H1 has opening tag and H1 has closing tag. Div has opening tag, div has closing tag, but input here tag, it doesn't have a closing tag. That is why those kind of tags, people call them self-closing. And as you can see, there are several attributes over here. So let's go with the first one. First one, it's just a name. A name might be whatever you want, but in my case, since I'm using the first number, I decided to call it number 1. Then you can see the type of it. You can see a type. The type can be different. It can be, if I would like, I can change it to text, for example. If I change it to text and then refresh my page, and then I'm able to add letters over here or symbols or wherever I want. So any kind of the values. So what kind of type this input tag might be? So it can be password. So if I put password, let me refresh the page. So I put something and you can see, let me just increase it, the size. If you see, there are some dots appearing and the type of that input field is password. That means all content will be hidden. That is why. So to learn, it can be even email, yeah, email also works. Let me refresh the page. So dot blah 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 gmail.com, for example. In this case, it will be to learn more about this specific input tag. You have to just Google it, input tag, and then bam, click here, and those kind of things, the input field might be, it can be button, checkbox, color, date, and so on. Just choose the one that you need and you're good to go. So in my case, I'm going to use numbers. That is why I put here numbers. So let's go back. I want to switch it back to number. Okay, then I have a size. What does a size mean? So size in this case specifies the width in characters of the input element. So that means it doesn't matter how many symbols am I going to put here. No, I can increase the size, decrease the size. It's on everything is up and depends on me. So that is why. But let's stick with size 10. So should be working with size 10. So, and the next, and the last one is ID. You already know what ID is. And as you can see, there is a single quote over here. Let's put double quotes because it's kind of, it will be still working, but it's a very good practice, you know, just to keep with one style. If you decided to go with single quotes, then the whole project should be using single quotes. If you decide to use double quotes, then all projects should be in double quotes. So that is why. So let's go next. Then repeat the previous step to create input for the second number and the result. So as a result, we have to repeat the previous step and then add the same input field for the second number. Sorry. Let's just, like I need only input field. That is why I'm going to copy this guy, paste it right here. And then I need the result. So I'm going to put it right here. So result number. So let's refresh the page and see what happens. So now I do see 3 input fields, but what's the difference between those 3 input fields? So the size is the same. Here, I actually didn't put the size. I can put the size, not a big deal. It's not in the documentation and it will be still working. So let's just put it and see what happens. So nothing actually changes. And then we'll see. So the type is again number, ID is a result. So ID should be result. But if you notice, there is such thing as attribute read only. What does it mean? That means that I'm not able to put any values inside of it. So here I can put some values. If I click on this field, I'm not able to put any data, any kind of the data in it. Why? Because this field will be used only for displaying the result, and that's it. So let's go back to our project and we'll see. If you noticed input, okay, I'm talking about this one. Then the step number 3, open calculator.js file and create a variable R after Windows unload function. So that one should be looking like this. Then I'm gonna open my window unload. After that function, I'm going to create a variable let R. We will be using this variable later and see what happens next. So paste the following code right after the new variable R. So I'm going to copy this variable over here and just paste it right here, because right now I want to add some functionality to my website. So here I created a function, I call it sum. There is no parameters in it, and as a body, this is the body of my function. And if you notice, there are 3 operations or 3 lines of the code right now in this function. The very first one, I am going to create a variable n1, then use a method parse float. This is just a syntaxes, just like get element by ID. You don't have to worry about it. And then document get element by ID num1. Where can we find num1? Num1 can be found right here. ID with num1. Okay, let me put it num2. That means that whatever value this input field will have, it will send it to this function, its value over here. And then the same works for the num2. Parse float document get element, but in this case, it's num2. That means that we are referring to this input field, and whatever this input field has, it will send it to my function over here. Let n2 parse float document get element by ID num2 dot value. Dot value, that means that we are requesting the value of this input field and this input field. What we gonna do later? So we created a variable on the line number 14, and on the line number 19, we said that we are assigning the new the result of actually the sum of n1 and n2 to the variable r, which is actually pretty much the same thing or the same operation. So we declare something over here on the line 14, and then on the line 19, we are assigning some value to it. So questions? Okay, so if you want to read more about parse float, I put some link over here, and you will be able to click on it and then to read more about it and then get familiar with that. So the next step will be open calculator.html file, and in tag body create the following tag: button on click. So I'm just going to, okay, we do not need this guy over here. And I'm going to copy it, and then in body, I have to put this button. So what does it mean? I'm creating a button, some sort of the button, and there is like one event. Once we click on that HTML on that button, something will happen. Let me give you maybe some example. Empty button. So delete this guy, and let me refresh the page. So if I click on this button, nothing happens, you see? But if I'm going to create the same button, let's say maybe maybe I should just put it in the, okay, that's fine. Like this, and now you are able to see the plus sign over here. So for right now, it won't be working because we have to end the functionality. So let's proceed and finish all other 3 operations, and afterwards I will show you how to connect everything. So on the next step, I will create the same function, but I will call it sub. And sub means I need a difference between n1 and n2. So the same thing works for the multiplication. I'm going to copy this function and then paste it right here. So Here, the same thing actually happening. I'm just getting the value from the input field number 1 and the number 2, second number, and then I need in this case I need the multiplication. The same thing works for the division. Let me add the division. Right here. So right now I have 4 operations. So, but I also have to add the buttons. So let me add the buttons as well. So I need button to make subtraction. Here is it. Then afterwards, I need a button to make multiplication button, then unclick, it's over here. And then I need a button to make a division. It's actually right here. So, and let's refresh the page. So if we refresh the page, now we have 4 operations right now, but we need, if I put some numbers or some values inside of it, nothing will be happening. Why? Because we need, just as regular calculator does, we need an operation according which will help us to get the actual result. So to do that, we go to our documentation again, and we'll see. So I'm going to add one more button, which is actually equal sign, and put it right here. So now let's go back. And afterwards, I have to create a function which will be doing, will be displaying the result. So in this case, it's this function. I will call it function equal. So let me put it right here, and this is actually it. So let me refresh the page and we'll see how it works. So I put number 1, let maybe 4, 5. I want to make some, and then click. Here you go. Then I can refresh the page, or I can minus, and then, yeah, 4 minus 4, 5 is -1. So this is actually it. So let's go once again through the whole structure, or how to do it. So to do that, we added, first of all, we added 3 input fields over here. Let me refresh the page real quick. So here you go. Input field number 1 for the first number, input field for the second number, and input field for the result. So if we click on the structure of our HTML element, we can see each div contains heading in an input field, heading and input field. Even the result, it has a result heading and input field. So what was the next step? So the next step was creating some variable R, and that variable will be our result. We are using this variable in our functions, in each of our function. So at the very first function, let's start with sum, and we just create or declare the variable n1. N1 stands for first number. Then we create the second variable, n2, and then we are assigning new value to the variable r. And then on the last function, which is actually equal, it will just request the value of the variable r after each of the operations. If, for example, if I clicked on the sum, so that means that right now on the line number 19, the latest value of the variable r is the sum of n1 and n2, and the value of it will be sent over here, and then later on displayed in result field. The same one works for the subtraction. I created a variable 1 and 2. I subtract N1, N2 from N1, and then I got the new value for the variable R, and then that variable, the new value of it is right here, which will be displayed. This value will be displayed in my result number right here. So on the next step, multiplication, it works the same way. I'm using N1 and 2 value of the variable R, which is storing in this variable, and that variable says, hey, what's the result? Result is right here. And the same one works for division. And this is actually it. Do you guys have any questions? Was it hard for you or it was easy? Give me some feedback.
I'm still trying to connect the dots. I understand the function, the sum, the subdivision, the multiplication. Trying to connect the function equal to all of this. So why wouldn't, for instance, why wouldn't, because I see you declaring R here in
okay,
each
yes.
functions above. So why wouldn't the oh, I see. So wait, okay, I think I just answered my question. You did, so you do declare the values here in this, but you don't present it, right? So the last function is actually presenting it.
Yeah, actually, what I can actually do, I can just maybe put this line over here, and then, but I have to declare my result let R, and then, okay, let me disable this part, and then after it, I have to say document blah, 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 and let's delete this part over here, and we'll see what happens. So I put 12. So you see, I don't have to click on the equal sign. Right now, I am storing everything in one function. You know, I don't have to click on equal sign. All I have to do, I just created a new variable R on the line number 19, you know, the same one which was here on the line 14. And that line or this variable contains now only the result. And that result is being sent directly, you know, since the ID is the same, get element by ID. And as you know, the ID is a unique element. That is why it's being sent to that input field right here.
Gotcha, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let me put everything back. Here you go. So guys, do you have any other questions? Maybe about my course or what we will be doing there or what I'm doing on my daily job?
What will be the homework after this?
So as for homework, you should be able to finish this project, to go through that document, and feel free to reach me out if you have any questions regarding this project. I know this is like a kind of small project, but this project depicts what we actually are doing on my course. So on my course, I can show you what we are doing on my course, actually, to be honest with you. Let me just open something real quick. This is actually all my students folders, and we are creating a resume. So if I open it, let me just open it. So on my project, we are creating on the resume, and I am trying to integrate the every JavaScript theme to this project. So we are using variables here. We are using arrays here, objects not yet. We have button functionality. We have some CSS integrated right here. So it's more beautiful. It has some functionality. You can click on the buttons, and you are creating your own resume. This is actually what I and my students do. We do have our live project where we have to, we are storing actually all the latest code in one place, or let's say a storage. And this is actually what you will be doing once you find your dream job, hopefully. So you will be updating the common code. You will be using, you know, a lot of tools like Visual Studio Code, Git, Node, and other tools, some internal tools. And this is actually what we have on my course, at least.
Is your course going to be part of this course, part of this general QA course?
Yeah, for sure. So as for first module, we have QA manual and JavaScript basics, coding basics. Why are we having coding basics along with QA course? It's very simple, because our second module, it's about the front end. So if you want to create a super nice front end apps, then you have to know JavaScript, at least basics. Or if you would like to proceed, and then you would like to, after QA manual course, you would like to go to be promoted, let's say, and start doing automation, go ahead and take the automation. So either or works for you, and for both of the courses, you need JavaScript basics. This is actually JavaScript basics is our, like, let's say, in our first module. It's like the thing that we expect our students to know before they start our second module.
Another question, I'm sorry, is IDs. Do we always declare them in the beginning, or like I see sometimes? And if you go to HTML, there was one example where it's at the end.
It actually doesn't matter. So
Okay.
as long this is attribute, and the sequence of the attributes, it doesn't actually matter, to be honest with you. What's important is that they should be presented or there. Otherwise, it won't be working. So if I delete one of the IDs, let's say this one, the whole functionality won't be working. So I put 1, 3, then plus sign, then equal sign. You see, I click on equal sign and I expect to see the result, but that doesn't work. And if I put it back, the ID, because that specific ID is being used in my calculator.js, it's right here, num1. You see, num1, num2. And all those guys are being used in each of the functions. And yeah, let's have a look on the input. Once again, it has type number. It can be different. It can be text or whatever it is. And the size, we do not care about the size. What really important is here is ID and let's say the name. This kind of the attribute, it's nice to have, like, let's imagine that for some reason your ID doesn't have an attribute ID. This attribute first number, it doesn't have an attribute first number. So in this case, if you write automation or something, automation, then you will be referring to this name at least. So more attributes you have, easier it will be to work with that specific HTML elements. So, and back again to your question, sequence doesn't matter. It just, it depends.
And as far as naming goes, in IDs, we also use camel case. Is that correct? Like no underscores suggested?
Yeah, but those kind of things, they are, let's say, every company, according to my experience, they have internal document, and according to that document, each of the company, they decide how to what the main concept is. They determine the main concept, you know, how they call the name, because for right now, for most of the companies, they use a camel case, but some companies, okay, for guys who don't know what camel case is, for example, number one, and then I would like to add something to it, like say number one prime, and so on. That the second word starts with capital. That is called camel case. So it can be kebab case, if I'm not mistaken. This is like this, where you have a dash between the words, but mostly it depends on the company. Whatever your company uses, go for it. Usually during the once you, for example, during once you submit your homework and I will look through it, for example, I look through that document that you sent. Okay, according to our concepts, you have to, okay, this better. According to our concepts, you have to put semicolon after in the end of the each line. Sorry, guys. Semicolon. But some companies, they do not follow these strategies. So everything depends on the each company. Any other questions? Did I answer your question?
You did, thank you.
Okay, good. Maybe some other questions, guys, before we end today's class. So on the next class, I hope you will see some automation with Arthur. And this is actually where the whole fun starts. But to do the fun part, you have to know the basics, unfortunately. So if you
Do you
not,
know what
yes,
you'll
sorry.
be using for automation? Is it going to be what kind of framework?
WebDriver, for sure. It's gonna be version
Wonderful.
6. Yeah, version 6 or version 7. So the latest, my assumption is the latest WebDriver version, and you will see some fun stuff over there where Arthur will give you a clear image of what automation is and why it is so important, and why there are so many positions or so many companies that are looking for the automation engineers. So this is basically it, and I hope you guys enjoy my class. If you do not have any questions, feel free to drop off. I will create a Slack post on this channel, maybe on, yeah, on this channel. I will create a Slack post where I will attach this video along with the documentation, and I hope you guys, I hope to see your homeworks before the next class. So this is basically it, guys, and if you do not have any questions, I wish you a wonderful evening. Goodbye.